Start off and welcome everybody. It's so good to see some familiar faces and some new faces. So tonight we hope to have some good conversations between our alumni that are in the room. We have a few panelists here, which is great. It's good to see different class years that are represented here and some students in the room. We also have the career and life planning team, and I'll have them introduce themselves in a moment as well. But we hope that this night provides an opportunity for our students to ask their burning questions to our alumni, and then also provide networking for alumni to alumni and alumni with students. So with that, I'm going to have the career life planning team introduce yourselves. So Lindsay, I'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Coates, the Director of Career and Life Planning, and I just want to welcome everybody to our second roundtable. And you know, as the advancement team, we're as new members of the advancement team, Career and Life Planning is so excited to continue our work with Lorella that in a more kind of direct way. And part of that is getting to know and to build connections between students and alumni. So I really appreciate her efforts and appreciate all of you for joining. Megan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Brandau. I am Assistant Director of Career and Life Planning at NEC. I've been with the college for about 5 years and want to thank everyone so much for your participation in tonight's event.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon. I'm a career advisor here at New England College. I've been with the school a little over a year now, and looking forward to this event tonight. Thanks for coming.
And then I don't know if I introduced myself. Lorella Volpe, Director of Alumni Relations here at NEC. So from now, I'm going to have each of the alumni in the room. I'm going to have you each introduce yourselves, just a short little information about yourself. So your name, class year, what your major was in school, and what you are doing now. So I'll look through the squares on my screen, but I'll start with Anna Marie.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. I'm super psyched to be here, although I really wish we were in person. But this is the second best thing. I graduated in 1987. And the person in the other square, Julie Redard, is my college roommate, and we are still best friends all those years. Let's see. My major was psychology. And actually, after I waited 15 years, I think, before I went to graduate school at University of Chicago to become a social worker. So I am currently a licensed clinical social worker in Concord, New Hampshire at Concord High School.
I'm muted. Great, thank you. Thank you, Anna Marie. Next one we have here on my screen is Jacqueline.
Hello, my name's Jacqueline De Loreto. I was Lally at NEC, graduate of 2007. I majored in psychology and minored in art. And then after NEC, I got my master's in counseling psychology and art therapy. And I currently work at our Supermax prison in Trenton, New Jersey, doing art therapy on the inpatient unit.
Great, thank you. I see next to my screen, Jim.
Hello, glad to be here. I was the class of 1992, majored in biology. And Professor Dunlop was one of my professors way back when she was starting. So glad to see you again. After leaving NEC, I got a master's degree in molecular biology and biotechnology, and then a PhD in microbiology and immunology. What I do currently is I am a clinical lab director. So if you send testing out to, let's say, like LabCorp, right, that's a clinical laboratory. And so every clinical laboratory has a lab director who meets the requirements of CLIA. And so I'm board certified so that I can be a high complexity lab director, and my specialty is molecular diagnostics. And so currently I'm a lab director of 4 different labs around the US, and I consult with a lot of people who want to start labs. So I've started probably about 150 clinical labs around the US for people currently.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Julie.
Hi, everyone. Julie Redard. I was Julie Monson in 1987 when I graduated from New England College. My major was communications with a focus on public relations. I went on immediately to get my master's at Boston University, in public relations specifically. While there, I did an internship with a high-tech PR firm and worked in the high-tech PR industry for 20 years. And then my company was bought out by IBM and I got let go, and I made a career change, and I am now working for a financial software company as I help implement the software. Career, so I can talk to, you know, looking for your career, but also career change, you know, how you know, remake yourself if you need to, and that's me.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Can I say something about Julie? She also has a side hustle and she does resumes and they are perfect. She did my resume. I was like, holy cow, that's me.
So when I was unemployed for 2 years, I did resumes professionally. And so I did go back to work, but I love doing resumes so much, so I continued to do it on the side. So she's right.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I-
amazing you're doing that. Thank you, because I know they're so difficult. We help students with it every day, and I'd love for you to share a little bit, you know, some tips maybe later on.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, great. So now we'll open up to students. Do you have questions for our panelists?
First of all, thank you for being here. Nice to meet all of you. Deb and I think we've spoken before. Hello. Julie, I'm interested in majoring in communications. I'm curious, like, what did that entail? Because it seems like every college defines communications a little bit differently. So I'm just curious what your experience was like here at NEC.
So it was, we had a lot of basic communication courses. But I was looking for business communication, you know, but I'll tell you the reason I picked the college originally was that it had its own student-run newspaper and its own student-run radio station. And I was going to work there and get some great experiences. And then I got here and I got involved in student government and other things instead. But I was focused primarily on business communication, so marketing communication, that was my focus. More, definitely not the communication that goes more into the newspaper and that arena.
Thank you.
Right, I guess I'll just say a little something. My name is Dane Hawley. I'm an environmental science major. I should be graduating May of next year, and I'm in a position where I'm not really sure what exactly I want to do because I'm not sure what kind of opportunity is there. I'm willing to go anywhere and do pretty much anything, and I will likely end up going to grad school afterwards, but I don't have really any immediate questions right now.
Can I speak to your statement though? I actually gave a talk recently and it was to young people and it was about, you don't have to know what you want to do, but you have to know that you want to figure it out. So just my recommendation is just pick anything. I started out on Capitol Hill because I figured anything that you're interested in, they're talking about it on Capitol Hill, and I worked for a member of Congress. And that was a wonderful experience, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated, but I knew I liked this, you know, after getting some experience, you can take away, oh, I enjoyed doing this. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed researching about this. I enjoyed doing whatever. So you kind of, you figure it out along the way. So don't stress yourself out saying you don't know exactly what you want to do. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know, but you have to want to figure it out.
Great, fantastic. Thank you very much.
If you have a question.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. So I am looking into going into a career path that is primarily focused on education. I am aiming for a graduate degree in biomedical visualization, which is popularly known as medical illustration. And so again, that's really focused on educating other people. And so I'm currently majoring in graphic design and minoring in biology. And for those of you who have any experience, with educating others, what kind of resources have helped you adjust to that? Because I haven't taken like an art education class or anything like that. I'm especially with communications, like anything that you can provide in terms of resources is super helpful. Really general open question, sorry.
So I've done some teaching. I teach genetics occasionally. I've done it online. I've done it in person. And some of the resources that I've used are, they're the short videos almost that really capture the concepts very well. And so someone with both the science background and the graphic design and art skills to put together very good short videos, I always found those very helpful to help the students grasp some of the concepts. Because you can explain something, you can show them a picture, but a short video of molecules moving and DNA unwinding, that was very helpful to get them to help understand the topics.
There you go, Alice. You need to take genetics. And I think I got you in there today. I didn't recognize your last name, but when you said the visualization in grad school, I made the connection. So there you go. You got great advice.
Can't escape me. I'm sorry. But that's really good feedback. Thank you. Because like that's what I'm really looking for is like Lindsay was saying, like I've been doing a lot of networking because finding out like the actual experiences of people in the field and like what they've learned, through their positions is super helpful, because like medical illustrator is just not what it used to be. And so finding out like how are people using technology and how can I provide that so that I have a job is really helpful.
And the people who do that really well get tapped into by people around the country, right? And once that connection is out there, you become a resource for a lot of people to do it, because really high quality, people will come back to you again and again and ask for those types of things.
Are there any professional organizations that you would recommend to Alice? If you can't think of any off the top of your head, you can always tell Lorella. But I think that's always, I found it so helpful to kind of get a grounding in new and emerging industries.
Yeah, there's different labs that produce graphic aids and visualizations. Most of them have a role in education. So I can send Lorella a couple of those. I need to look them up, but there's a couple out there who do that type of thing that I've used frequently. But it's not a organization that specializes in it. It's kind of, they have a science mission, and then part of that involves education, and so they have a team of people who will produce these short videos. A lot of it's out on YouTube as well, and there's quite a few out there. I can get a couple of sites and send those to Lorella.
Oh, thank you. One other question, sort of a follow-up, is, and a lot of you mentioned, or both Alice and Dane mentioned grad school. When did you know was the right time to go to grad school, and how did you approach that decision?
For me, it was when I really had a love of science, I guess, always, but and a willingness to just do the work and commit to it, because graduate school is not particularly like undergraduate, right? I mean, it's in the sciences, it's very much a research element to it. And so you're almost like a lab tech working for the investigator that you're working for. And so it involves long hours, commitment, but I found it very fulfilling because I love the science, right? And so you can get in there and you can talk to other people who like science as well, and it just keeps you going from day to day. But it is like a PhD is a lot of work, right? And so you have to commit to it, and you know, in the sciences, a lot of the PhDs are 4 to 6 years, some even longer. So I wouldn't say it's an easy journey, but I found it very satisfying. So it's, you've got to love what you want to get into, one, and then just commit to it and say, you know, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do it.
So what kind of work were you doing prior to going to grad school? At what point during your career path in that direction did you decide you wanted to do more?
So I was in the Army actually for about 8 years. After I got out, I was a combat medic in the 82nd Airborne Division. So I was kind of going around the world, jumping out of airplanes and having fun. But what that really taught me was that I didn't want to be a clinician. I didn't want to be a medical doctor. I didn't want to be a nurse, because that, I really liked more the science aspects of it. And so that's what got me into clinical laboratory. It has a translational impact on patients, which is what I wanted, but it's got a very heavy science element to it. And so that was really one of my end goals, was to either do something translational that would help patients, or provide some type of service that was not directly with the patients, because I figured out I don't have bedside manner, right? I didn't have sympathy all the time for the patients. And so sometimes people would end up in pathology who do that, but I really liked laboratory medicine, so doing the testing, particular molecular diagnostics. And so I came to the realization that I wanted to go to graduate school kind of when I was getting out of the military. I knew I needed more education to really do what I wanted in the clinical lab space. And so, and I always had loved genetics and molecular biology. And so that's sort of the route I took. Also love microbiology. And so my research was always a combination of genetics and microbes. And so I was doing a lot of molecular studies in bacteria and pathogenesis. And so it just clicked for me one day that, hey, you know, I needed to go a little bit further with my education. And then, so I started looking, and the government paid my whole way through, right? I had my GI Bill from the Army, and then I was on training grants for a PhD. So, so they paid me to go to school. It wasn't a big paycheck, but they paid me to go to school. So.
Great, thank you very much.
Any of the other panelists want to chip in on you know, their thoughts on deciding to go to graduate school and what led them to that decision?
So I waited, what did I say, 12, 15 years before I went to graduate school. And the reason was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea what to study in graduate school. So I just worked. I had various very interesting jobs on Capitol Hill. And then I thought I wanted to go the lobbyist route. And I ended up in Chicago working at McDonald's Corporation, and I was doing public and community affairs. And it was at the time I was also doing grassroots organizing. And it was at the time when we were opposing an increase to the federal minimum wage. So that was my project. That was I had to work on and organizing the owner operators to oppose an increase to the federal minimum wage, which I happened to disagree with. So I was quite disillusioned and thought I'd sold my soul to the devil. So I actually did some research with a professor at University of Chicago. So I'll tell you, as you're trying to figure out, DePaul University, as you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and you do research, you act as a research assistant for a professor. If you walk in their office and say, I want to help you, they will roll out the red carpet because they know that you're going to work for free. But it's amazing experience. It was absolutely wonderful experience. And I was doing research on stress and depression of urban youth. And I said, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to be a researcher. And she said, no, you don't. You want to be a social worker. And I was like, what in the world is that? So she pointed me in the direction of social work, and I applied to University of Chicago, and that's where I went. And I'll tell you, it was a very intimidating experience. New England College is a lovely school, but it's also not New England College. And so I wasn't quite sure that I could do it. And it's unfortunate, none of you know Dr. Sayce. Dr. Sayce was a professor, just this incredible professor. Julie and I actually participated in the Model UN, and I remember being very intimidated doing the Model UN. And he said to me, Dr. Sayce, in his very very sophisticated accent said, Anna Marie, you are just as smart as everyone else in this room. You are perfectly fine. So I recalled him my first day at University of Chicago. Anna Marie, you are just as smart as everyone else on this campus. That was debatable. But anyway, I waited because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I had to wait till I really figured it out. Graduate school is expensive. I did not go for free. So I wanted to make sure it was exactly what I wanted to do.
So regarding art therapy, I have always wanted to be an art therapist since I was probably a freshman in high school. So I always knew I had to get my master's. In order to be an art therapist, you need a master's, and schools are either, depending on where you go, it's 2 years to 3 years. And what I did at New England College was I majored in psychology, minored in art, and followed schools that had art therapy and kind of took those classes so that when I got my master's, I didn't have to take extra courses and I could just jump right into my the master's program. So basically.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think it's something that students, I know that the two on the call might know about this, but like what the whole concept of prerequisites with graduate school.
So I knew I wanted to go to New England College. I love the small atmosphere. I love the little town. I love New England. I'm from New Jersey, so I love just a cute little New England town. And I love the fact that New England had small class sizes, so I knew that's where I wanted to be, but they didn't have art therapy. So what I did, my mom and I researched schools that actually had art therapy, and we looked at their brochures, and I kind of looked at classes that New England College offered and just followed the art therapy schools and found the ones that New England College offered and kind of just made my own degree kind of. Took art classes and along with the psychology classes and kind of merged the two. And so when I went to grad school, I really didn't have to take any extra classes. I just started right in to my degree, which was a lot easier. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I would say the reason I went right on was also the same idea. And some would say, why would communications or public relations need a master? But the fact is that it is pretty broad in undergraduate, and to really stand out and succeed, you need to specialize. You need to have, your area that you're, got some expertise in. There was actually a point too when I was working at a PR agency, maybe 30 people in the office, and the PR organization, I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the name, put out this edict that anybody who wanted to do PR needed to have 3 criteria, and one of them was a master's. And there were only 2 in my office that had that, out of 30. Because people came from all these different areas. So times do definitely change, but it helps.
Okay, can I add something here? James talked about his PhD being supported through his the military. So what a lot of students don't know is if you go to masters or PhDs in the pure sciences, you normally apply and request an assistantship or a research assistantship. So it's very likely that someone would have a few years of a master's program being paid for, you would have the experience of teaching a couple of lab classes or something. And then normally there would be a tuition waiver. So students don't always get that point. So when, who was it, Dane, thinking about environmental science and moving forward in the science field, it's very possible that there are programs like that that are more pure science, and you would apply for these assistantships. So I think I've spent 9 years in graduate school and paid tuition 1 semester. So all the rest was support from the universities. So it's something that students really don't know. So it's always good to apply when you're looking.
I went to the University of North Carolina to get my PhD, and so it was in the microbiology and immunology department. And really, the department had a training grant so that all the graduate students in that department were paid for. So, you know, we got a salary, basically. It wasn't much, but we got paid basically enough to live on, and our tuition was paid for, and we had health insurance as well. So.
And depending on sometimes if you wait to go to graduate school and you're working for a company, there are some companies that do help you pay for graduate school if it pertains to what you're doing in your role. So you can always look into that. A lot of higher education institutions, if you work for them, they will typically pay for graduate school. Again, there's some parameters around there, but check with different companies. There are a lot more out there than you would think that can help with paying for graduate school.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to say when you aren't sure. You could also, and you probably know some companies that you'd like to work at. So maybe you're not sure what you want to do in that company, but you get your foot in the door. And, you know, if they have a program where they'll pay you to go to school, then even you can take classes that are more in line with the direction you want to go in.
And for sure, a PhD will be even in the field of social work. They won't pay for your master's degree, but for your PhD, they will. I started my PhD. I'm a PhD dropout. I was too old when I started it, and I ran out of steam. So, but they do. Most PhD programs will give you a stipend. You'll get a teaching assistant or a research assistant, and your tuition and will be paid for, and you'll receive a stipend.
This is some really helpful information. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, I guess I'll my general this is I do have one like little dream, and it's all the in-between parts that I'm trying to fill, and you guys just helped with that a lot. So I'm under the assumption I'm just going to go out and try a bunch of things once I graduate, see what I like. If I need a master's to do what I want to do, which I think I do, then I go do that, likely do research with them, try to make some of that college money back. And then at some point, I want to go to Antarctica and do research on how climate change is affecting things like the permafrost and whatnot. But that's like out there. But yeah, unless any of you guys have specific information on that, I think you guys have helped me a lot with kind of putting it together.
You know, I think I just want to say that your dream may not be so far away as you might think. Come talk to your professors, share your dream absolutely as liberally as you possibly can. You know, come talk to Shannon, Megan, and I. We'll see if we can connect the dots, you know, and help you with that. But certainly share it with your faculty members, share it with everybody, because somebody is likely to know some sort of, like, even just a wee stepping stone between you and your job. But I don't think you need to wait. You know,
right. No, I was definitely going to say networking and talking to people, anybody, any of your family, or when you're, seeing other people or whatever, because you don't know who they know. And again, in LinkedIn, as you start to use that, you want to make sure that, you know, you can have connections with somebody. They may know someone that, you know, and they'll give you an introduction. And the most important thing is informational interviews. You're not asking for anything but information. And you go in and you talk to them and they give you information. You haven't asked them for a job, so it's not as stressful. But you can walk away often with a connection here or there that might get you down the path you want to go.
Yeah, and I'd suggest that you talk to Elizabeth Harper. She'll know right away where you should go, what you should do. And you've just expressed what your next step should be. If this is your dream, you should graduate from NEC and then see if you can find a master's program based on climate change. I mean, UNH has one. They go to the polls all the time. And so you could start looking at these different colleges or universities for master's programs and looks at the requirements now. And I know Alice is doing that, looking at prerequisites for her grad program, but you could look at your prerequisites and take other courses at NEC that you would need. So Elizabeth would have the tip of her fingers a number of suggestions.
Well, fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I will certainly start doing that now. I guess it's something I hadn't really thought of, but I guess the best way to network is to really just start talking about it. I have spoken with Elizabeth Harper, and she has given me kind of the steps to start doing it. I just have to just go out and do it, I guess.
Julie's point of a LinkedIn profile is a very good one. I'm so glad she said that. I work in a high school, and I've been doing it for quite some time now. So my students have graduated. So when they graduate college, they appear on LinkedIn and, you know, looking for opportunity, looking for this, looking for that. So I've had an opportunity to connect them with, you know, people that can offer assistance. So LinkedIn is a very, very good idea. Make sure it's a professional picture. Reach out to my friend Julie here, who can help you with your LinkedIn profile as she did mine. She's very good at that. But I think that was a really, really good point that you made, Julie.
Yeah, I agree. And I've interviewed hundreds of people for entry-level jobs over the years. And one of the things you really need to think about is just your professional image. The email you may use as an undergraduate may not be the appropriate email that you want to use in a professional setting, right? Because I've seen some pretty crazy email addresses get submitted for jobs. And so it's making sure that your resume is polished and accurate, right? It's not just making it look good, it's got to be accurate, because you're going to get questions about it when you're in your interview. And so your professional image, your resume, even dressing appropriately when you go to an interview. You know, some people will come in like they're just coming from a party somewhere. And, you know, this is a professional interview, and this is your first chance to make a good impression with an employer. So working on all those is important. You know, I know the people at NEC are probably very available to help you with things like that in the Career Center. So.
Thinking, this is one question that a lot of students ask, like when you're hiring, and you, Jim, you just kind of, you teed me up here, but thinking about skills that you look for in new hires, or even if you haven't been like a hiring manager, like what kind of skills can you encourage students to get or to talk about?
So most of the hiring I've done is for laboratories. So there's always a technical requirement. There's some minimum mandatory requirement that you have to meet, some skill or competency. And if you don't have that, you're really not going to be considered for the job. But once you've found sets of jobs that you meet those minimum requirements, then it's the soft skills, it's the things that are going to set you apart from everyone else who meets the requirements. So your ability to communicate, your ability to respond thoughtfully to questions. You know, you don't always have to have a set answer, but if you give a thoughtful answer that you can back up in the argument, then it'll go a long way, right? I don't consider entry-level people to be experts in the field. So if I ask you a question that you would really need to be an expert to answer well, it's okay to say, you know, I don't know the answer to that, or this is what my thoughts are, you know. And so it's the ability to think, the ability to communicate, the ability to interact with other people professionally, because you're going to be in a setting with other people. You know, those soft skills are what's going to set you apart from just that base level competency of technical skills.
And toward that end as well, Jim, I look for grit. I look for a work ethic. So I want to know, I can teach you what I need to teach you, because I also have interns. I take 2 interns every year. But I want to know that you're not going to give up when you're faced with something hard, when you're faced with something challenging. So stories that can illustrate your determination and your willingness to learn a new skill despite how challenging is really something that I look for.
And I think grit is probably the #1 factor that's going to make you successful in anything you go into, right? The ability to just do the hard work and get the job done. You know, everyone is got very different qualifications, but I think the one thing that I see in successful people is just work ethic and grit, right? I mean, that's, they get a job and they get it done.
And I was going to say that for a lot of college graduates, they may not have a lot of work experience. But if you look at some of the jobs you did, whether you worked at the deli or if you worked in the cafeteria, you worked in a bookstore or whatever, you can use some of that to point out where there was a struggle, there was a challenge, you overcame it, you know, as a way to kind of demonstrate that. And it doesn't have to be in your field. So any of your work experience can be a way to demonstrate who you are as a person.
Go ahead, Deb.
So can I ask the panelists to just share a little bit in terms of what they see and what they know about job growth in the area that they work in? So I think this would be good if this is recorded. I think that question will help students have a bigger understanding of things they'd consider.
You will never be without a job if you are a social worker, ever. You won't make a lot of money, but you will never be unemployed.
So in the clinical laboratory scientists, there's a shortage of qualified med techs, which would be a bachelor's degree level position. There's a shortage of everyone in the field, and it's only getting worse. So salaries are rising because there's shortages. They can't fill positions. If you have the right qualifications, you know, you're always going to be hireable in this field because the field is graying. I mean, we have a lot of the experienced med techs are retiring now, and there is not a good pipeline of them coming through. There's schools, but there's not enough people getting into the field, and so the shortage is getting worse every year.
So can I follow up on that a little bit? What would be the step for someone graduating from NEC wanting to be a med tech? Are those private career-based programs that they'd be looking at?
So you can qualify as testing personnel with just a bachelor's degree in the sciences. A lot of hospital labs will want you to be certified by something like the ASCP as a med tech. That would be a school that you would have to go to get the clinical laboratory scientist experience to get that qualification. So you would then have to take the certification exam and get that. Some of the specialties you can do through experience. So like molecular testing, if you have the lab skills from molecular biology, you can get hired as a testing personnel. And then after you have a year or two of experience, you can qualify to take the ASCP exam through experience. And so then you can get the certification that way. So there's different tracks to get a certification as a clinical lab scientist.
Dana, did you want to go or I'll go? So, so as I said, mine was a career change. So in fact, I am at the bottom or close to. You know, I'm in financial services, which continues to be a pretty robust industry. But I'm on the technical side. And, you know, it's really great stuff because software is always going to be needed. So And I'm helping the customers implement the software so they're having a better experience and, getting the most out of the software that they're using. So that's a little bit of customer service and a little bit of technical. But there's, again, I kind of fell into this because I didn't know what I was going to do. And we were thinking about the things that you like. And then that's basically what I did. And then I found a job that's doing the things that I like. Yeah, I think financial services has great opportunities, but you really want to look at, a lot of people say financial services, they want to do the fast moving trading and all that. And there's so much else behind that that's needed.
Art therapy is continuing to grow. When I first went to grad school, our class sizes were very small, 5 to maybe 8 people. Now there's almost, at my grad school anywhere, there's like 20 people now in a classroom. New Jersey and New York have it's a very big population of art therapists in this area. There's a lot of jobs in the city. Most of the time they're per diem or part-time. It's very rare to find a full-time art therapy job. The funding's just not there for a lot of companies. There are only 7 states that actually have licensed art therapists, and New Jersey actually just got that. So we're in the process of doing that. So we're becoming more recognized, as I've heard that before. I worked in schools and they said that I wasn't recognized as a therapist. So jumping through that hoop is big too. So we're actually coming to be under with the social workers and counselors and be recognized as actual therapists. So we're going in the right direction. So it's really a growing field right now.
I certainly have a lot of students who, or a steady stream of students who are interested in art therapy. Are there some experiences that they could try out in an undergrad, or maybe just right out of graduate school right out of undergraduate school that might help them on their way?
So when I was in undergrad, I tried to get an internship in a child life department. So unfortunately, it wasn't able to work out. But if they were to look into schools, they can go on the art therapy website. I can email that to you, and they can look up art therapists in the area. And they're always looking for interns at certain jobs. So if they wanted to, a lot of jobs will let them shadow. Depends on obviously at a prison, they wouldn't allow that, but schools, private practices, nursing homes, there's a lot of art therapy. We also fall under rec. So if they wanted to look under rec therapy as well, that's a big one because we're kind of like an adjunct. So a lot of psych hospitals fall under adjunct therapists. So we have music therapists, drama therapists. So if they wanted to look into that, because I really wanted to do an internship because I knew I was going to grad school for it, but I learned so much more in the field than I did sitting in the classroom, because you're learning from your colleagues. You get to kind of see it hands-on how it actually works. So that would be a great resource if they could get into, I could even look up, I know the art therapy website, you could just look up any art therapist in that area. I'm sure the rec website's the same way, their organization, but it does fall under rec. So that might help them a little bit more than just specifically art therapy, because we usually just fall under adjunct or rec.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate that. And sort of like another kind of a follow-up to Anna Maria, thinking about the education students. We have such a large population of education students. So I would want to ask if there's, for up and coming art teachers, or not art teachers, but educators in general, are there some tips or some things that you want to tell them about students in this day and age? Because I know this is a very particular time in history.
That's true. So I actually love that question. Bill Preble and I started class presentations several years ago. And so I work with a very specific group of students at Concord High School. I work with the ELL students, the English language learner students. So Concord is a refugee resettlement site. Well, was and will be. We have a little brief period where our refugee resettlement program essentially shut down. But what Bill Preble and I did was I brought a group of 10 ELL students into the classroom, what did he call it? Pre-teacher classroom. And the students talked about what they needed from their teacher to feel welcome into the classroom. Because we know that a student is going to perform better if they feel welcomed, if they feel listened to, if they feel valued, that they will perform better in the classroom. So I really feel, I know we have all these wonderful things happening in education, but truly the thing that you need in education is a relationship with your student, because students will perform if they feel loved, if they feel cared for, if you feel that you value them. So it was very interesting to have the students say, this is what I need to feel welcome in the classroom. I want you to stand outside and say good morning to me. You know, I would like just really, really simple things that you don't, and these are high school kids too. You think they're not going to care. They're not kindergarten kids, but they really appreciated that personalization every day as you're going into the classroom. So, and as soon as we get past COVID, I would love to do that again. I would love to bring my students back to New England College for that experience.
Thank you.
So I would ask a fun question. I want everyone to tell us what your favorite memory or most memorable moment was at NEC.
Well, I'm kind of prepared for this question. I'm not going to tell Julie stories, but actually my favorite memory of New England College is, and I don't know if you still do it, but every year they hosted an international night. And I thought that was the coolest, the funnest evening. And because there's such an international student body, the students were able to put on these wonderful performances, wonderful cultural performances. And then the dining hall always prepared this international meal that featured all of these meals from the students' culture. So as a matter of fact, I started it at my high school. So this is the 10th year. I wasn't able to do it last year, but this is the 10th year that we host International Night. And it's directly copied from New England College International Night. That was such a fond memory for me.
That's so great that you mentioned that. I actually, when looking through a lot of the yearbooks, I see so many yearbooks that have so many pages of photos from this international night that it's good to learn a little bit more about what it is from what the photos are that I've seen. So that's great.
I think one of my fondest memories, I guess, is just to me, it's just the winter, with a fresh snowfall, just getting up early and walking across the campus. I mean, I live in North Carolina now, so we don't get as much snow as I was used to up in the Northeast. And so it was a beautiful place to walk in the morning with the fresh snowfall. I think the other thing I had really fond memories of was some of the field biology classes and work, the ability to just go out in the woods and walk and study or canoe and in the ponds and do some things like that. To me, that was always great. I mean, I got science, and you can be outside and you can hike and you can canoe. And so both things I love to do. So those are really enjoyable experiences.
So I went to Arundel, and I can't not say how fantastic that semester was. And I know you guys probably still have connections and have international programs as opportunities. If you have the opportunity to do it, you should. There's so much you learn from being in another country for a semester. In fact, my daughter picked her school by the fact that she wanted the ability to travel somewhere. And she did something totally different. But anyway, so that would be my primary. But secondary was just the fact that you could do so much at NEC, even though, I mean, it's a small school, but you want it. My senior year, I created my own directed study because they didn't have exactly what I wanted. The teachers are so willing to kind of work with you to make happen what you want. So.
And Dane, just so you know, the college used to own or have a campus in West Sussex, UK, in the UK, that students could go to. And they had it, I think, until the mid 90s, I believe, is when they sold the campus over there. But a lot of students, a lot of alumni have a lot of great memories and a big connection to going to that campus over there. So that's what she was mentioning.
Oh, fantastic. I would like to see that again. That would be really nice.
I'm sure a lot of people would.
Yeah.
So your pub is supposed to be a copy of that, the pub in, is it the Spalding Center?
Oh, really? Okay. That's too
That's
funny.
a copy of the pub from Arundel.
Isn't the wall with the signatures, isn't that from Arundel?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think they're copying it. I don't know if they could bring it back.
I think now that some of the graduating seniors end up signing the wall now every year. So I think it's been overwritten if it was originally from that.
The thing I loved most about New England College was, I mean, the people I met. I love the class sizes. I think that was my favorite part. I needed that for a college. And like I said, I love New England, so that's what really brought me up to New England College. But it was really just, you knew everybody. Sometimes, it got people into trouble knowing everybody, but being so small. But it was just, I'm still friends with a lot of people from the college. People that played sports, people that didn't play sports. I didn't play sports, but you just kind of get to know everybody, and it really is a great community. The professors, the events that went on. I always remember spring weekend and, the big events that were always a good time. Living off campus was always great too. So it's just, a great experience. I always like to go visit every year because I just love it in the fall. It's just so pretty, to get away from the busyness of New Jersey sometimes. So.
Thank you all for sharing your stories. We have a little bit of time. Is there any other questions that we have here tonight?
I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me, and I really hope that we can do this again, but we can do it live. I think that would be really fun to be back on campus and to.
You just want to go visit. I know.
I know. I really do. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so nice to go back. And then, this year not being able to go back. Julie and I go every year for Alumni Weekend. So it'll be nice to be back. So please invite me back.
So Anne Marie, I oversee psychology program, and I will work with the faculty, so they'll invite you to come talk about your social work career, and Julie, if you're nearby, and maybe we can tie it into alumni because they're all now teaching career professional courses in the program.
Oh, sure. I'd be delighted. That would be terrific.
And
Well,
Jim,
thank you. Ooh, go ahead, Deb.
Jim, we'll find a
yeah,
way for you to join one of the careers in science panels that we have.
Absolutely. I'd enjoy it.
Well, I thank you all for helping the college.
I want to thank you all as well for settling some of my anxieties, putting me on the right direction. I appreciate it. I'm sure that there will be a lot of other students that breathe as well, knowing that there's not as much pressure. It's more about what they want to do. But yeah, thank you guys for coming by. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And one last thing I just wanted to mention too, if there's any students either watching or here, if you want to make any connections with any alumni or have questions about certain fields, you can get in touch with my office or the Career and Life Planning office. We can both help you and make those connections and help put you in touch with somebody who may know somebody else to help grow your network. So we're here to help. But again, I just wanted to thank all the panelists for coming tonight, taking the time out of your busy schedules to help us. But I hope you have a wonderful night, and thank you.